But what Open is effectively actually it's this year we launched Open. And what it really is now is the right time. Web3 is ready, the technology is ready, and the industry is ready.
Today I sit down with Colby Mort and Oliver Biggs to discuss the open ticketing ecosystem.
And Open is kind of that very sort of sexy and rebellious brand that actually says, hey, there are huge problems in the ticketing industry. The tech is ready. Let's tackle it head on.
And how they're onboarding millions into crypto.
To date, we've issued, I think, about 5.6 million tickets on chain, which is a good number. But there's really, it's a massive industry. It's an $85 billion industry.
And seriously, they're doing tickets for F1 races, major music venues.
We have a way of being able to onboard millions into on-chain experiences at the touch of a button or the purchase of a ticket.
So as you're searching for which RWA, real world asset coins, are actually being adopted,
we're really excited to be paving the way there. And I think people should really look out for the RWA narrative and what that can entail.
Open is a project to watch.
I think this is really the year where we bring everyone on chain.
Watch today's whole video. Thank you, Open, for partnering up today. And let's start, gentlemen. How did you first get into cryptocurrency?
Yeah, I mean, so I got into crypto around 2016. I discovered ETH, actually. It wasn't Bitcoin. It was a podcast going over the ICO and kind of the pros and cons of the blockchain in general. But I have a kind of a very nerdy background with growing up with RuneScape and really kind of knowing digital economies. I immediately sort of, my ears pricked up and I got in that way. And then, basically just really dived headfirst into the ecosystem, met these lovely chaps at Open. What I really liked was it was very grounded in reality. It's a very Dutch thing, actually. At the time, there was lots of buzzwords, 30,000 TPS, etc. But these guys, it was effectively, here's a real problem in a huge industry affecting a lot of different people, artists, organizers, etc. Here's how blockchain technology can really make an impact and how we're going to do it. So immediately fell in love with it and jumped on basically a couple of years ago, I think going back 4 years now. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into crypto effectively. Yeah.
Yeah, nice one. I come from more of a marketing background and also kind of a more creative side, writing, that type of thing. So I, like most people, kind of heard in the last bull run some whispers, some early adopters saying you should really get in on this, ignoring it for too long, seeing them get wealthy, then getting in on it, but also being I don't have a big technical background, so things need to make sense on a very basic level to me. And then on Freakonomics, I think the economics podcast, they mentioned just in a byline, like there's this Dutch company that's doing blockchain ticketing. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Looked them up. They were right around the corner from where I lived. So I just swung by. I was like, hey, do you guys need help? And they're like, yeah, well, you could become community manager and we'll start there. And now it's been coming on 6 years already. So it's a really great way to get involved. On blockchain ticketing is really the use case that sticks for me, and I think for a lot of people.
So for somebody who's never heard of Open, it is on-chain ticketing, but just the very basics, what is it?
Yeah, so ultimately what we really wanted to do is build scalable global on-chain ticketing infrastructure. We had this Web 2.5 approach for a long time. So going back since 2016, we always felt like in order to approach the events industry, it needs to be frictionless. The North Star is if your grandmother can use it, it's good to go, right? So effectively what we built is just a full on-chain ticketing infrastructure that any event organizer or artist can actually tap into. We built this really like top of the state of the art of the industry. Frictionless infrastructure that includes everything you really need to actually sell tickets. So event dashboard, mobile application, ticket scanner. But what really is at the core of it is we built out obviously a blockchain layer. So every single ticket issued is issued on chain. And as an attendee, you don't really need to know about it. You purchase a ticket in local fiat currency, you go through normal flows, your ticket is tied to your mobile, but behind the scenes, on-chain ticket is issued for you. And that opens up a lot of benefits. But what Open is effectively, actually, it's this year we launched Open. And what it really is now is the right time. Web3 is ready, the technology is ready, and the industry is ready. Let's start actually bringing more of those innovations to the forefront. And Open is kind of that very sort of sexy and rebellious brand that actually says, hey, there are huge problems in the ticketing industry. The tech is ready. Let's tackle it head on. So we're really trying to peel back the layers and actually expose a lot more of those benefits for everyday people, for organizers and artists, which I'm sure we'll touch upon. But yeah, that's what Open is in a nutshell. It's an ecosystem of builders, of ticketing integrators, of independent artists and organizers who can really benefit from on-chain ticketing that we've built over the years.
So I'm going to a Laker game this weekend. What is the benefit of these tickets were on-chain for the customer, and what's the benefit for the issuer?
Yeah, I mean, so for the issuer, the benefits really are multiple folds. It's across the entire life cycle of a ticket. I think one of the biggest unlocks is the event financing. So to take it back, I mean, a lot of event organizers and artists require funding in order to be able to put on their event. You know, there are a lot of different deposits that need to be paid before they're actually able to sell tickets. So, you know, usually you would go to a centralized ticketing company and they would provide a loan. And that's like the crux really of what makes ticketing run. The problem there is the fact that that is a hugely powerful position to be in if you're able to give financing out, right? So these centralized ticketing companies say, hey, okay, fine, here's this loan, but you're going to need to do ticketing with us for multiple years. You're going to need to play at the venues that we own, and we're going to like take a huge percentage of your actual fees, so they lose out on revenue and data. A massive benefit of on-chain ticketing is it's of course tied into the nature of a blockchain, right? You have public funding quite literally because of the nature of on-chain capital. So that allows these on-chain tickets to actually be bundled as collateral and used to raise financing for an event. So as an artist or an organizer, you can quite literally raise funding via your on-chain tickets and then be able to put on your event and, you know, have the benefits there. That's just one of them. The others are sort of transparency and accountability. Anyone around the world can see tickets when they're issued. We have this really cool Explorer where you can see real-time ticket data for events around the world. So it's a real nice accountability layer. And I think a huge unlock then is post-event. So no longer is a ticket really this single-use access tool. It's this thing that always lives on effectively. It's an access pass into digital experiences. As an artist or an organizer, you can build a community with them. So you can quite literally go, hey, you've been to my event. Here's access into this Telegram, into this Discord, into whatever it may be. So I think really the benefits for an issuer across the life cycle effectively. Maybe Oliver, you want to touch upon the benefits for the for the actual attendee?
Yeah, so it's no secret that ticketing is kind of messed up, for lack of expletive. But basically anyone around the world has issues with ticket scalping or ticket fraud or just it being an enormous pain in the ass. There's the expletive. So the it's a very easy pitch in that regard. To average fans, we just say, hey, we just have a very straightforward mechanism where you can buy a ticket in a way where you know it hasn't been messed with. It's the price that the artist set for it. No one got in between. No one got their foot in the door. This is what it is. That's basically the pitch. So we don't try to sell too much blockchain where it's not needed, because there's a learning curve. People, for good or bad reasons, have some connotations to it. So we've learned if you want to reach the masses and do big stadium shows like we've done, 20,000 people, you just need to prove that you can do it. You need to really walk the walk. So simplicity is key. So we really put a lot of time in creating an environment that's super straightforward, makes sense, and after a while, when people and artists and organizers have a great time, have a good experience for a long time, they see all the data they're collecting, they have a very straightforward revenue process, then they actually get interested in like, hey, what's this about? Say, oh, we will build this blockchain infrastructure and here's how we do it. And then they actually really, then they come on board with the tech side of it. But straightforward, it's just no scalping. There's no messing with the tickets. Fans can check the history of their tickets life cycle. They can see on chain the price that it's been paid for it, whether there's been any markups or not, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and then also like another really cool thing that fans are able to unlock there is obviously it makes tickets a lot less boring. So, it's naturally an NFT. So you can basically have like this evolving NFT where pre-event you've got this really cool design, but then post-event it actually becomes clips from the event, new music, an artist's signature. We actually did that with the really cool Irish up-and-coming singer-songwriter Dermot Kennedy. He did this really cool busk in Edinburgh, and anyone who came along, they were able to get like a footage of him singing. He released some new music that he dropped as the ticket and then signed each one of them. So it's a really nice memento, effectively, that kind of, yeah, isn't something you throw straight into the trash when you've used it.
Yeah, we got a ton of cool examples like that. Like we ticket the Dutch basketball champion here. So for your Lakers example, what we do with them, we do dynamic NFTs that first are just the cover image for the game. So you see the two teams. And then post game, we update the image to show a highlight of the game, and then it reflects the score. It gets a green grading if it's a win, et cetera, et cetera. So fans really collect all those memories very tangibly. And in 5 years from now, you'll remember whether you were in attendance for the championship game, or you'll be able to see, oh yeah, that was that game.
And they could even unlock benefits 5 years down the line as well, right? Yeah. Like if you were at that winning game, then you get access to a ticket shop or a meet and greet, whatever it may be. So yeah, it's endlessly accessible.
To me, on-chain ticketing seems obvious. It seems it's needed. It's going to happen. I totally understand the value add. The question is, who's going to do it? What's the company to do it? You gave 2 great examples. Like, what else is the track record? How have you been used thus far?
So, so we, I would say, unfortunately, are the market leader. And I don't say that to brag, but we really see it as rising tides lifting all boats. So we are really rooting for anyone that's supporting this use case, or that's trying to boost it. So there, since our beginning, we have tried to keep score. We counted about 170 Web3 ticketing projects. I don't think there are many left on that list. That is because breaking into the actual Web2 world is tricky for a bunch of reasons. Some are very Puritan about the on-chain part, which is great, and we are as well, but it's really tough to make the connection to the average event organizers and have them trust you with their business, which is what it comes down to at the end of the day. So it's tricky. It requires trust. It requires building relationships. It requires, making the tech accessible in ways that requires a lot of heavy lifting initially. So we did a lot of that heavy lifting over the past 6 years, where we feel we have a pretty robust tool stack now that can be put into the hands of independent artists, but also really the bigger ticketing companies that want to kind of dabble, because we've seen a lot of really big companies show a lot of interest in Web3, but they might be conservative because A, they don't want to throw all their tech out that they've built over the last 20 years, which is understandable. And B, there's still a reputational thing to be considered, so they don't want to run any risks. So that's why we have integrations as kind of like a Lego block dynamic. So we offer really entry levels for any type of organization or artist. So it can be a massive stadium, which we ticket, but it can also be maybe an existing ticketeer that just wants to put an allocation of their tickets on chain and kind of see what that looks like and see how people interact with them. So I think that kind of wider palette of business options and lower thresholds is what's going to drive the adoption. To date, we've issued, I think, about 5.6 million tickets on chain, which is a good number. But there's really, it's a massive industry. It's an $85 billion industry. So there's really a big way to go. And that's why we are totally not tribal. So we really want to, we really see this as the use case that's also going to drive wider Web3 adoption. We really want to work together with the brightest minds in the space. Anyone who sees this use case, like you said, a lot of people really understand and say like, oh, that makes sense for NFTs. That makes sense for on-chain, for Web3. The potential is there. And we really feel that through collaboration, we're going to get there. And especially recently, we've seen a lot of cool collaborations pop up. We're working closely with the people at Base, who support also the rebrand, and kind of we're going to bring tickets there as well as our token. But we're also talking to the Solana Foundation, who've been awesome. So we really want to spread it out wide and get as many people on board with the mission as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to touch upon sort of past clients, we've been really lucky to kind of work quite broadly across music, sport, and theater even. Last year we did the Zandvoort Grand Prix, so which is, obviously one of the F1 stops in the calendar year. We worked with the Dutch Grand Prix. They were really enthusiastic about it, obviously because they're so forward looking. And we broke up the whole track into 100,000 coordinates with them, and every single person who purchased a ticket was able to get what they call the trackside treasure. So on the day of the race, it revealed as one of those coordinates with this really cool clip of the race, direct in the Dutch GP app tied to their ticket. So we've done some really cool use cases on that front. And then every month we routinely do the Ziggo Dome, which is Europe's largest music venue here in Amsterdam, which is just, all kinds of cool music acts that routinely sort of do 18,000, 20,000 attendee concerts. So we've really built it to scale. We've really built it battle tested. So as I mentioned earlier, like even your grandma could sort of buy a ticket and have a time of your life. So,
yeah, and there's been a couple cool integrators also around the world who have kind of taken our tech and ran with it. So there's a really cool integrator in States that have also ticketed for Gucci Mane, big rap show, Lupe Fiasco. We had one in Korea that did like a Korean museum exhibit. That to me was the coolest thing because it was so far out of my world where I was like, wow, that's happening right now across the globe. So there's been some really great use cases. But yeah, we're working on a lot more because there's really a much bigger part of the pie that we're ready to go for.
What would you guys are, want adoption for everything, but sports versus music versus other, what's the bigger opportunity?
Great question, actually. I mean, I think sports is always forward facing. So in terms of opportunity for integration, now is kind of the time where sports organizations, federations are looking into this technology and trying to implement it. We still see some caution there where they see it as something they can do externally to an external community base, but it still has layers of bureaucracy and hierarchy that it needs to go through in order to be like really delivered to the core fans, because they've got them engaged really already. But I think that's the area where we see a lot of opportunity right now. We've kind of built this API that can plug quite frictionlessly into these different organizations' ticket bases. And that's something we use for the Grand Prix as well. So I think that's an area we're going to see a lot more innovation from this year specifically. And we've got a really cool integrator actually announced this week that does really cool sports marketing campaigns that kind of uses that. But I think ultimately, I would say music really, like just because it's a bread and butter kind of event type, like it happens all around the world. It happens routinely with high frequency. It's something that, I think artists and organizers are actually the core benefiter of this technology. I think that's really the thing, whether it's financing, whether it's connecting with fans. So that I think is the golden goose.
I think the level of fandom is kind of the key denominator. I think that exists both in sports and certain sort of subsets of music, where if the fans are willing to wait outside in the cold for a couple hours, I think then there's an even bigger value add for taking things on chain, where the collector's value goes up. Fan will have a huge emotional resonance with the experience. And then also that's when you see the biggest issues, like around Taylor Swift, like in all the dramas around that. That's when the most money gets eaten up by scalpers, or that's when people get duped because the demand is so high that it gets a little testy. So I think anywhere where the fan creator connection is at its highest, that's where the biggest value lies for putting things on chain.
Larry Fink of BlackRock, along with many others, have said real world assets. That is happening. That's key to me. On-chain ticketing, very obvious use case in real world assets. Can you guys get into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most fascinating things about ticket inventory as an asset is it doesn't require, huge sign off on a legal front. There's no, hey, like if you want to tokenize real estate, you need to go through all of these checks. With ticketing inventory, it's quite literally the event organizer or artist who has the power to put that on chain, and we can facilitate that relationship. We see it really as the most accessible RWA at this moment in time, just because of the sheer volume, right? It's in the millions of tickets, the millions of attendees that can own these assets. So I think it's huge potential. What we want to do is facilitate a ecosystem where if you bring a ticket on chain as a real world asset, you then unlock a multitude of ways that you can use that, right? So one of them is event financing, where, okay, I want to use these as collateral, raise money, put on my event, fund those deposits. The other is it could even be a marketing branch, right? Where the ecosystem is incentivized to help you sell those tickets. You set the amount that you want to make from an on-chain ticket being sold. You set the amount that you allow resale to occur. And all of a sudden, the ecosystem is incentivized to help sell them. It could be an influencer in a specific location that can sell them via their platform. It could be a marketplace like Magic Eden, for example. It's really composable when you bring a ticket on chain where it gets sold. And then you bring it back into an environment that the artist or organizer controls, which is like the ticket application. So it's this perfect way of making something fungible and then bringing it back to being non-fungible when you need it to be, when the ticket gets scanned. So yeah, it's super frictionless, really. We're really excited about it. And it's something that can happen now, I think, really what's important. Like Larry Fink is obviously future-proofing for 10 years, 50 years. There's a lot of like legal loopholes that need to happen to be able to make that possible. And we're really coming in and being able to say, hey, here's 20 million tickets this year, perhaps 50 million the next. This is, yeah, just something that could really benefit people. So, yeah.
And Oliver, what's the use case of the token? Obviously, I need it to interact. So what is use case, and then also tokenomics?
Yeah, so we have the OPN token, and this is basically the fuel for all tooling. So on the integrator side, we have about 15 to 20 integrators around the world who are issuing tickets using the OPN open tooling. They need to top up OPN essentially as a type of credit or fuel to issue tickets. So it's quite straightforward. So there it's a volume game. The more tickets they issue, the more OPN they need. On the token holder side, it's also on the open market across a few DEXs and on a couple of exchanges, and will be added to more. On the token holder side, so we have a really cool, speaking of RWA, yield for stakers. So basically, it comes down to any ticket issued means more yield to stakers, which is something we're really proud of. To me, to my simple non-dev brain, that makes a lot of sense. So that's something we're really proud about. And also, we have a really cool DAO, a ticketing revolution DAO, that's kind of supporting our mission. Looking for ways to bring in builders, looking for ways to really spread the word about what we're doing and find new avenues and collaborations. So that DAO there, the staked OPN, has a governance purpose, as well as there are all sorts of cool grants for anyone basically that can add value to the mission. Yeah, right?
Yeah. Guys, I feel so much like more connected to this project, or so much more of an understanding since we took this time to talk about this. So thank you. Is there anything we didn't cover that's worth mentioning, or maybe just what to look forward to in the future?
So I think the thing I'm most excited about looking forward to for this year is just adding more volume on chain. So we did about 5.5 million tickets to date. We've got a couple of really big deals with some really big organizations that are looking to go from 0 to 1 basically on-chain ticketing. It takes quite a while to get them to do so. Sometimes they're concerned or they have hesitations, but we have a track record now where we can point to, where we say, hey, these are the value adds that we're bringing to you. And right now, luckily, we're in a position where that usually gets them across the line. So I'm most excited about doing that and getting them to try out this stuff with us, and really, we really see it as, let's bring as many organizations on chain as possible. So that doesn't mean taking everything and pushing them really hard and on all sorts of complicated Web3 stuff, but let's get some experiences under their belt. Let's start doing this and put their ticket inventory on chain and build from there. And that's really the first step. And then basically I see it kind of like we get that Web2 traction, and then we also want to divide it up amongst the Web3 world ecosystem, bring them to our partners, bring them to multiple chains when they're suitable, introduce new tooling from people that we think is awesome, and sort of unlock new features for them. So that's sort of that growth is really, we're looking to project about 20 million tickets on chain for this year alone. So we're really stoked about that development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then for me, I think what Oliver touched on with the multi-chain aspect, you see a lot of blockchains out there, a lot of infrastructure has been built, and there's simply not enough users to use those pieces of technology, right? So we see ourselves as an app layer for hire, like really, like putting it bluntly, there are lots of different blockchains we'd love to work with. We have a way of being able to onboard millions into on-chain experiences at the touch of a button or the purchase of a ticket. And we're going to be able to do that like this year. So yeah, whether it's an EVM compatible chain or others, we really want to be able to bring users on chain and help these infrastructure layers out. So I'm really looking forward to that specifically. Yeah.
This is great, guys. And at this Laker game, I'm going to ask them about on-chain ticketing, and we'll see what
Please do. Yeah.
the random lady that's not in charge says. But cool, guys. This was awesome. Where can my audience find you? And just final message for the Altcoin Daily Army.
All right.
Go for it. So I'll say, so to find us, the best place is on open.xyz. Specifically to get a good ecosystem overview, it's on open.xyz/portal, or click the sort of enter the portal on the website. That really just gives a great overview of here's where you can find the token, our community docs, our DAO, etc. And yeah, I want to kind of impart the message of, I think this is really the year where we bring everyone on chain, right? Whether it is financially, whether it is through events, I think this is the year of consumer crypto. And we're really excited to be paving the way there. And I think people should really look out for the RWA narrative and what that can entail, because it's very exciting. And it's finally, I think, benefiting everyone around the world, like how people envisioned all the way back when Bitcoin was created. So yeah, really excited.
Yeah, not much more to add. I think we're on X/Twitter also on OpenXYZ. I think I'm really proud of the community that we have. We have quite a vibrant community, and there's really kind of an avenue for everyone to get involved. So if you're a builder looking to build some cool stuff, or you have ideas around this use case, maybe some prototyping, or maybe some real tangible things that we could put into the field tomorrow, we have grants, we have places for you to develop these ideas. If you're a speculator, I think there's cool stuff on the token side. If you're just a fan of the use case, we have plenty of folks who are just hanging out in our Telegram and Discord and just talking about it and seeing as it develops day by day. So we'd really love to have you. Yeah.
I just followed you on Twitter, so I'm looking forward to it.